Hey, Christian men. Yeah, you guys. Let's talk here for a minute, okay? We have a problem. And actually, we have several problems, but today I'm going to talk about one particular problem. And that is the fact that a lot of Christian men, if not most, watch pornography. Hey, guess what? We're not supposed to do that. So, what are we going to do about it? Well, the obvious thing to do is stop watching porn. Okay? It's pretty straightforward. But before we get into that, let's talk about why. Okay? Usually when you do something, it's nice to know why you're going to do it. So, first reason, number one, yeah, we're going right into this. Number one reason to not watch porn is God says not to do it. Okay? Obedience to God. That is a huge priority for us as Christians, is obeying God, doing what He says. We say we're followers of Jesus Christ. Okay, if we're following Him, then we better be doing what He's saying, or else there's no point. God says not to do it, so that should be enough for us. Bam, video done. That's it. That's all you need. But I'm going to go deeper in anyway. And let me stay on that just a second longer, just to flesh it out a little bit in case there's any lack of clarity. Okay, Jesus says that lust is a type of adultery. In, I believe, Ephesians, and probably elsewhere, it says there must not be even a hint of sexual impurity among you. Okay, well, that's pretty much it. That covers it. Okay. Bible, Word of God says, hey, this is bad. You can't have this going on. Don't do it. All right. So, that's the first one. It should pretty much wrap us up on that end. I'm not going to take a real long time on this, give you some huge lecture or anything like that. But obedience to God. God says not to watch porn, so we need to obey Him and not watch porn. And that covers all other kinds of sexual sins too. This isn't just porn. Okay, this has much wider implications, but that's the one I like to focus on for a number of reasons, and I'll probably talk about that some other time. But anyway, for the time being, let's move on to second one. And this is kind of sort of the same, your relationship with God. Okay? Any kind of ongoing habitual sin, I believe, has a negative impact on your relationship with God. It's kind of like it creates a little bit of distance between you and Him. And it's not that, slipping up or anything like that is unforgivable, or that it causes Him to revoke your salvation card or anything like that. Blot your name out of the book of life. No, we do slip up, we make mistakes. We're not perfect, at least not yet. And we're not going to be perfect until we die. So, there's a distinction here. This ongoing sin, this kind of habitual sin, you can call it, to use a little bit more of a churchy term. These kind of addictions, it's not acceptable. It's not a part of the Christian life. It's not something that you can tolerate. And it's not to say that Christians don't fall into this kind of stuff. But if you're serious about following God, if you really are a believer and you believe what God says and you trust Him, then you can't accept these kinds of things in your life. You have to fight them. You acknowledge them, but you don't accept them. You go on the attack. That's kind of a little formula I have for flaws. It's pretty straightforward, but I like it. You never accept your problems. You acknowledge them, assess them, and attack them, and then you defeat them. So that's my little thing about life. And I think it's good. Because we shouldn't just accept these kind of flaws, because God didn't accept them. That's why He had to make a sacrifice. He had to send Christ to die on the cross for us and accept the guilt for all that, because these kinds of things, because sin at all is not acceptable. And so we can't just accept it. Just because we're forgiven doesn't mean we can accept it. And if you do accept it, then you're kind of just playing for both teams, and you can't do that. You can't serve two masters. You can't say, okay, I'm going to obey God and follow Him and this and this and this, but in this, it's not hurting anybody. It's not really doing any damage. I'm just going to let it go. It'll be okay. I don't need to apply God's commands and God's word to this little area of my life. You can't do that. That's not Christianity. And yeah, maybe that particular sin, slipping up or whatever, isn't going to affect your status as a Christian, as a genuine follower of God. But you know what? That attitude will. An attitude of sin is okay, and I'm just going to do it anyway, regardless of what God says. That's not faith. Okay? That's disobedience. That's blatant disobedience. And you might not have thought of it like that. And maybe, your heart really is in a good place right there, and you're just, man, I had no idea. I didn't know. I wasn't making the connection there, but that's what it is. So, and let me bring this back around to your relationship with God here. I believe that these kinds of ongoing sins do create a kind of wedge in your relationship with God. And the reason I believe that is, number one, because that's how I felt personally between being addicted to porn and then later on quitting porn and seeing what happened to my relationship with God. I would say absolutely, this is something that does impact your relationship with God. Any kind of ongoing sin does. And, that would go for other sins too, not just pornography. And some people have a problem with that. They say, well, we're forgiven, which is true. And we, nothing we do can separate us from God. He's all-powerful, whatever. Calvinists probably have a line they want to go on here. But I'm not picking on you guys. But anyway, this is something I can understand being a little bit problematic, to use a word that I don't like at all, for some people. But let's look at it like this, okay? If you genuinely seek God out all the time, you're focused on Him, you're obeying Him, you're praying constantly without ceasing, and you are... you're in the Bible every day, you're constantly hanging out with other believers or having fellowship, to use another churchy word, it's pretty safe to say that your relationship with God will grow and you will get closer to God in a sense. Okay? I don't think anybody has a problem with that idea. Okay, so what if you do the opposite? You do the opposite of the things that grow you closer to God. You spend time doing things that the devil wants you to do. You spend time focused on yourself. You spend time in sin, and you're okay with it. Well, if you do the opposite thing, it makes sense that it's going to have the opposite effect. And that lines up with my experience. It lines up with the experiences of others. It's the way it is. So, this is something that is important to deal with for the sake of your relationship with God and your spiritual growth. Alright, so that's the second reason there. Third reason, your relationships with yourself and others. I believe it affects that too. And really there's even some science starting to pop up here and there that supports this. And I'm not going to go into detail on that right now. I have read about it. It's very interesting, very, very good stuff. What it does to you is not good. The materials you can find in it are very good. In particular, you look up Your Brain on Porn or Dr. Gary Wilson. This is a brilliant scientist guy. He approaches this from a completely secular perspective, and even when you cut out, God and your obligations to Him spiritually, you cut out obedience to the Bible, all that kind of stuff, there are still a lot of very good reasons to quit, and a lot of ways that pornography, in particular, is affecting people today. And excuse me. And it's pretty serious stuff. It's not something that should be taken lightly. And like I said, obedience to God for us as Christians, this is the most important thing. But it's good to have all these other kind of supporting things here. And like I said, I'm not going to go into detail on those right now, but it is something that I would really recommend looking into, whether you need that little extra push or not. It's good stuff to know. And it does, just to put it shortly, it does affect your relationship with others, and it affects you on a very deep personal level. And it's something that is really worth looking at and deciding to make a change if you are caught up in that sin. If pornography is any kind of issue for you at all, then it's something that you should be looking at and that you should be working on and getting it out of your life. It's a poison, and you need to extract that poison out of the blood vessels of your life. Yeah, that sounds kind of weird, but anyway, get serious is what I'm saying. Get serious. And these are some good reasons to get serious. And there are a few others too. It all kind of falls under the umbrella of everything I just said. But there are a lot of very good reasons, and it's not hard to find them. You do research, you're going to find it. This isn't some kind of super secret thing or whatever. It's just a lot of people aren't talking about it. But I do want to start that conversation. I want you guys to start talking about it. I want to start talking about it. I am talking about it. That's why I'm here. And really get this message out there and start letting people know, hey, this is serious. This is something that needs to be dealt with. This is something that the church really isn't dealing with enough. And start taking care of this and start kicking this thing out of the church and getting this under control. But anyway, that's pretty much it there. Pray about this, definitely. Pray about everything. I will most definitely pray for you guys. I pray about this all the time. I would recommend you pray about it too. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I've quit a while ago, and it's awesome. But that doesn't mean I'm invincible. I might fall. Who knows? I don't think I'm going to. But anyway, I do appreciate prayer, and it's a good thing. Prayer is a wonderful thing, so do it a lot. But yeah, that'll about do it. I'll talk about more stuff later, but that covers what I want to talk about right now. So, God bless you guys. Take care. Have a good day.